Hello, welcome to Hakuna MaChatter, your place for everything positive in diversity and representation in film and TV. Today, we're going to be talking about Sam Wilson, about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, predominantly episode 4. But the topic I'm going to talk today, I can't do this by myself. So I've invited the wonderful Amanda on today from Candid Cinema, from AMX NDA Reviews. Amanda, welcome to Hakuna MaChatter. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk about Sam Wilson because he is the best and we need to talk about him more often.
I agree. I agree. So I've invited you on today to talk about this because you put out a beautiful tweet that just resonated with me on Sam Wilson off the back of episode 4. And I'll bring it up on the screen in the edit for the guys to have a look at that. But you were
Mhm.
kind of like mentioning how Sam is now sort of very much mirroring Steve Rogers and how that compassion and that finding the alternatives to fighting are coming through. Just wondered
Mhm.
if you could expand on that a bit further for us, like what it is you're fully seeing with the character of Sam Wilson now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like right after I watched that episode at 3 a.m., and there was that specific scene where Sam was speaking to Carly
Yeah,
and kind of like talking her down and just really trying to connect with her. And that's something that Steve would essentially do. And I think that because Sam was his like wingman, essentially, pun intended, because obviously Falcon, but he was his wingman. He even learned a lot from Steve because we have to remember that even with Steve, the whole man out of time storyline, his logic is completely different than any of the soldiers
yeah,
that would be in present day. So for Sam to kind of connect with him on a different level and still be able to bring his own like characteristics to the character of a soldier helping out
mm,
other soldiers as well with post-traumatic stress disorder. He had a purpose after coming back
yeah,
from war. So to like be with Steve and go on that journey with him, like helped him see a different side of everything as well. So that's why
yeah,
I've always loved their friendship. But in this particular episode, Sam, the way he approaches everyone, he's always calm, he's
mm,
cool, very collected. He's very decisive in his decisions and he always knows what he wants to do. And he
yeah,
assesses the situation much like Steve,
mm,
where maybe we need to go in and calmly talk to someone because again, like what Steve said in Civil War with Wanda, she's just a kid.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
Sam said the exact same thing about Carly in this episode.
yeah,
So he sees that side because he was with Steve, but also he has his own judgment. Like 5 years have gone by technically because of the blip. So now he's developed into his own fully formed person. And
mm,
that is why when I saw how he approached that scene, he walked like right by the window. He stood there, made that eye contact with Carly. We need to talk. Smooth,
yeah, yeah,
stealthy, like that is exactly something Steve would do. And I love that. And then more importantly in this episode, you see John Walker. It's such a contrast. Such a
yes,
contrast. And literally, I know that I love Steve so much, but I was looking at it like, that's not something Steve would do. That's not something Steve would do with that shield, Like he could barely hold on to the shield as well, John Walker. Like it was just weird. But with
mm,
Sam, you see that he wants to relate to the little person. He
yeah,
does that. He fights for the little person because he understands. It's a completely different playing field because he understands. Not in the same way like that Steve would understand, because obviously as a black man in America is a completely different experience entirely, but he still resonates with Carly in that way and understands her. And then he kind of delivers is like, well, maybe the execution in your plan is flawed. Maybe you can try it this way. And like
yeah,
talking is more important. Compromise is more important than going in guns a blazing. And that
yeah,
is what makes Sam Wilson Captain America. So,
yeah, yeah. No, I feel you, and you can kind of, yeah, like the way that they were bringing in his counseling as we established with him in Winter Soldier. Yeah,
mhm.
you can kind of see that unfold, and I think bringing up, you bringing up John Walker there, you get to see it even further. And I was kind of assessing this morning, before recording this video, like when you look at John Walker and you look
Mhm.
at in that 4th episode, the moment he gets the serum after he'd been beaten by the Dora Milaje, he's like, okay, I can be better now. His definition of being better is to be stronger, physically, and be able to match everyone. Whereas with Sam, his idea of being better is to get to the person on the inside and understand what's going on,
Mhm.
and then we can resolve it that way. And I think, you know, we're seeing what Dr. Erskine always said in the first Avenger about the difference between the perfect soldier and a good man. And
Yeah.
you know, we're seeing those two things play out at the same time here through
Yeah.
Sam and through John Walker. Yeah, it's such a lovely juxtaposition. I think you're correct there in highlighting that. So I guess, you know, now that we've kind of established like where Sam is at and how he's going to be moving through this, like how do you think that characterization is gonna pull him through? Because is there going to be a point where he's gonna have to lay it down, maybe with Carly or with John Walker or Zemo?
It's a tough question because I think he's going to have to fight at one point. I completely understand that. But I do think that it's going to be Bucky first who's going to fight on
Yeah,
behalf of Sam. Because I feel like even Sam's connection with Bucky, it's getting like they're closer now, but because they were both so attached to Steve, that's something that they're struggling with together. Like if he
yeah.
passed or like if, you know, wherever he is on the moon, but like they they struggled with that. But also we have to see that like Sam went through it with Steve to go save Bucky, so he knew that there was something there. So now in this case, like for sure Bucky is gonna pull out all the stops on behalf of Sam. So you get to see that friendship as well. So I don't think necessarily Sam is going to go in and fight right off the bat.
Mm.
I don't think he has that in him yet because he's also, I've noticed that he's more reserved when fighting, if that
Yeah,
makes any sense.
yeah,
Like it's always Bucky going like, I'm going to go attack, I'm going to go do this and whatever. And then Sam maybe like comes in afterwards. He doesn't want to fight. And that's what I've
mm,
noticed in the past couple. He does fight. I'm just saying he doesn't really resort to that. He doesn't want to do
yeah.
that. So if anyone is gonna like start beating people up, it's definitely gonna be Bucky, hopefully.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like how for someone who has been like so in the thick of it, then took himself out and then jumped straight back into a
Mhm.
larger thick of it, you know,
Yeah.
how he kind of still moves through there. Um, what are the chances of super soldier serum being left over? And even though we've established that Sam has said he would reject it, what
Yeah.
are the chances that if presented, he will take it?
Well, I was on I was scrolling I think through Tumblr. I know I said Tumblr. I'm so sorry, but
Tumblr. Wow, it still
I
exists.
was scrolling. Yeah, it still exists. I just keep it because like they have the best gifs after like a movie comes out or an
Right, right,
episode
right.
comes out. So I kept it. And they said that there were 12 in total when they were talking about the vials of
Yeah,
serum. There were 12. And apparently Carly only had 7 that kind of like fell to the floor from what
right.
they like I was reading. So that, like you said, there is something that was left over. So where it is, we have no idea. But I still don't think Sam would take it. I could be completely wrong, but I
Mm.
really don't think that he's gonna end up taking it because of like how quick he answered Zemo
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
scene. He's like, I'm not gonna take the serum. Like he's like, no, I'm not gonna do it.
yeah,
But I also think it's presented differently, whereas like Sam is you know, in peak physical condition.
yeah,
He, you know, it's a different era entirely. He can fight, he's in combat and all of that. He knows all of that. But in this case, like he's already like a well-rounded person. Not saying that Steve wasn't, but it was just there was something that was, you know, missing, obviously, in his stature and all of that.
yeah, yeah.
So I guess he felt that the serum would improve upon that.
Mhm.
But after talking to Dr. Erskine like that in First Avenger, he understood that it was more of like an interior change, even
Yeah,
though he was physically built afterwards. It's more of like that's going to amplify you. Um, so they understand that it's a different era entirely, and that's why I don't think that Sam would end up taking the serum, if that
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and I think, to me, like all points are pointing to he's going to have the choice. Like the choice is going to present itself because I
Yeah,
think it would just be weird that it wouldn't at this point. Now that
right.
the serum is exposed, I guess,
Yeah.
is the word I'm looking for there, and the way that the enemies are kind of all stacking up now as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. Okay, so we're not sure he'll get the serum, but we know that he's going to get the shield due to the trailers.
Yeah.
That's why I fucking hate trailers. But
Same. Same.
or at least showing, you know, something that's not coming till later, which kind of
Yeah.
seems a bit weird. So how, I mean, what is the obvious path for him to get that shield? Is because I can't see that it's going to be you know, a handing over of, yeah, sorry, we did that. What
Mm.
do you have a way in sight that Sam is going to get that shield?
I really, I want Bucky to just like go ham on John Walker because at the end of like this episode, he was just so torn up by the blood on that shield.
Yeah,
Like that shield means so much to him, and we've established that in the first three episodes as well, of like how much, you know, Steve means to him, and his connection with him and the shield and what it means. So to see that the blood, it just tarnished his legacy, and he's been there through that entire process, that whole journey. I really do think that on behalf of Sam, Bucky is just gonna snap and he's the one who's gonna go. Because really, realistically, like I don't see Sam like, I'm so pissed off that I'm gonna go get the shield myself. Like, I don't think he's gonna do that. So I think that Bucky's just not gonna tell Sam and he's just gonna go because again, there were photos. I hate that there's like leaks and all of that, but there were photos of like John Walker like pretty beat
beat up.
up. So I'm assuming it's Bucky. So I think
Yeah.
that's the right way to go. And even for Bucky to kind of prove that, be like, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Understand that, like, I'm going to be here for you no matter what after all of this.
Oh,
So yeah.
I saw
I don't know
that
what
in
happened.
motion. Who took the
Sorry.
dive? Who took the dive?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Sorry
Who
about
was
that.
it? Who was it that went?
It was Wonder Woman.
She's obviously trying to jump down and find a cave again.
Literally.
I've always kind of wondered if Bucky will go full Winter Soldier again, you know, in terms of beat up. For me, I don't necessarily see it happening. However, I definitely do see Bucky being the one to retrieve the shield from Walker. And I mean, it kind of only makes sense that it would be through a fist fight because Walker won't give up the shield. I mean, there's no way he's going to give up that shield.
No.
Because he will, of course, feel justified in what he's done with Hoskins' death. I guess that's quite an interesting question. Hoskins is definitively dead, we feel, yeah?
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah, I didn't agree with that death at all, to be honest. Just because like he was already going over the edge, John Walker, he was already crazed. So personally, to kind of like divert that death, I would have just had Carly kind of beat like John Walker, like kind of like throw punches to John Walker, and then he would get so angry that like Carly is beating him because she is a super soldier as well.
Yeah.
And that he still doesn't have the strength. You get what I'm saying? And then that would have set him off. I think that would have been I don't know. I think it would have been a more interesting way to kind of get that anger out of John Walker in a way.
I guess. Yeah. But I mean, it was quite nicely set up though, because, you know, when they were stood having their coffee and Lamar saying, you know, we could have saved people with the serum. And so I think it's quite a nice touch that even with the serum, he couldn't save. Yeah. But I get what you mean, because I rewatched the episode ahead of us chatting, and I was kind of like, it feels weird that they would just kill. Like, it kind of feels like the kind of show where they wouldn't necessarily just kill someone off.
Yeah.
But then it's war, and it's like, yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm a bit like, I'm sad it happened, but I can see why. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You can see why. I totally get it. I do. It's just he was already going nuts. So
yeah. Let's then take a quick moment on John Walker. And, you know, before he is pummeled by Bucky and the shield taken from him, what's the journey? Where will episode 5 pick up? Will it pick us up in the square in Riga, or will we have moved on from there? And how have we moved on from there if we have?
It better, because there was so much tension, so I wouldn't want to like them to cut to something else like automatically. Like I wouldn't want that. But if they were to move forward like out of the square, I think it's going to start with like the recording on the news. and the
Yeah.
media kind of defending their choice. And I said it on Movie Files live yesterday because we had a breakdown over there, and I said that because the US government chose this person to be Captain America, they sure as hell are going to defend their choice no matter
Yeah.
what he did.
Yeah.
um, so I really do think that that's going to be the opening, because the episode's an hour as well. So I think that if we show that on TV, and then we kind of cut to like Bucky and we cut to Sam, and then like their reactions to the way they're handling
Mm.
that specific situation, I think that would be a really powerful moment as
Mm.
well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it kind of really is set up to play quite nicely into the race issues that the show's already delved into, like to show
Yeah.
that, yeah, you said that the government will defend it because he was on a sanctioned mission, and you know whatever goes, and
Yeah.
he will get that leeway, whereas you kind of already know if Sam was already Captain America and he had done something like that. Yeah, or Isaiah Bradley, etc., etc. Actually, that's
Yeah.
something. Will we see Isaiah again?
I hope so. You can't just bring him in for episode two is like one of my favorite episodes,
Yeah,
next to this one, number four.
yeah,
But you can't just bring him in, and I believe Eli Bradley. You can't bring both of them in and
mm,
then not use them again. Like, what was the purpose of that? I really do want Sam to sit down with Isaiah and have that, like, a big conversation. I want them to dive into things, just because I think I've said it from the very beginning. If this was a 2-hour film, we would have gotten those very intimate, vulnerable conversations where they could share their own experiences, and kind of confide in each other. And I think that that
mm,
is something that's missing in this series right now,
yeah,
because they didn't have that conversation. It was more like Bucky talking to him. So I think that that's going to be a very important conversation if they do so in 5 and 6. I would love to see that.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I can kind of see that 5 is probably going to be the big episode, and
Yeah.
I kind of think that 6 might be a bit of a setting us up for what comes next. I don't know.
Mhm.
Part of me hopes for that. Part of me hopes that 5 is, sort of like Game of Thrones, how the penultimate episode was always the big episode, and then the final
Mhm.
one always. Yeah, it's a shame, now that we only have the 6 episodes, really, because
I know.
like now that we're here, we're like, oh, I want to see so much more.
Yeah, because we
Brilliant.
love them so much. The people who don't love Sam and Bucky, they don't really, they're
No,
not into the show, unfortunately. But
no. We'll keep shouting it from the rooftops.
hells yes.
Brilliant. Cool. Any final thoughts?
I'm just excited about the next 2 episodes, and I know that they're gonna pack it in, because they've been packing so much into every single
Right.
episode. Um, but I do want, like, if they do anything in episode 6 to tie everything together, it would have to be like Sam and Bucky's like storyline throughout this season. If
Yeah.
there's like, I just want it to be somewhat tied up. I don't, it's
Yeah.
impossible to tie everything up, because this seems like a setup show. Like, I completely get it, but just something like, if we see him with the shield and like
Mm.
as Captain America, that's not going to happen, but I would love for that to happen. Like, I'll actually start crying. I think that'd be amazing, but that's too much of a prediction. So I just want something like tied in that he may
Yeah.
be Captain America, or like something like that for Sam, especially.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I think I kind of agree. And I think that um I think you're kind of echoing what I was saying about like episode 5 will be the big one, and then episode
Yeah.
6 is, and as you say, yeah, let's bookend it. Episode 1, we see where they are. Episode 6, we see where they're heading off to. That would be
Yeah.
beautiful. Nice,
Exactly.
nice. Well, thank
Yeah.
you very much, Amanda. It's been great to just like expand on your thoughts from that tweet, because as I said, it just resonated with me so much. And it's kind of definitely, I was really happy with episode 4, that particularly
Mhm.
that scene with Cardia, that Sam had a bit more of a spotlight again,
Yeah.
after the 3rd episode.
Yeah.
Where can the lovely people find you if they don't already know where you are?
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's so great to have someone else who loves Sam as much as I do. Like, I love having conversations with you about him, and that we kind of boost him, because I feel like
Yeah.
he kind of gets sidelined the majority of the time because of Bucky. No offense to Bucky, but yeah. No offense. But yeah, you guys can always find me over at AMX ND Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can find me over on YouTube at Candid Cinema, and you can check out my website, candidxcinema.com.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Amanda, and thank you very much, guys, for watching this video. Please do let us know your thoughts on Sam Wilson and the show Falcon and the Winter Soldier in the comment section down below. Make sure you go check Amanda out. She has beautiful insight into film and TV. She always has wonderful opinions. It's the whole reason I brought her on today. So please do make sure you check her out. And I'll see you here again soon on Hakuna MaChatter. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.